Hi, this is Chat with Dr. Cat, and I'm Dr. Cat. Today we're going to be talking about, again, out in the wild. Here's another part of our series about behaviors that we see out in our communities, different locations, and how they may affect you, yourself, other people, people you're with. Let's just take a look at some of these. And I've got to say, these next ones came in from people who are listening to the podcast. I was really excited about that because we had a surge. So please go to Chat with Dr. Cat, put in your what do you see out in the wild or any other topic that you have, thoughts, feedback, whatever it is, chatwithdrcat.com. Find the area where you put in your name and email address, or you can do it completely anonymous. A lot of these came in anonymously, and a lot of repetition. It was really interesting, a lot of repetition, but I got to tell you, please have them keep coming in. These are really enjoyable for me to watch, and it also lets me know that you are enjoying this part of the podcast. Okay, so as always, no fluff, no judgment, just real talk that leads to real change. Okay, I have a list of a few things today from all of you. And the first one is waiters. I had some that talked about rude waiters, and I think this is an easy solution. I know rude waiters can make you feel uncomfortable or whatever, anxious, or you're wondering if you're gonna get your meal, you're asking questions over and over, where's the coffee, things like that. First and foremost, I would say you've got a little bit of control here, because if you're a waiter out there listening to this, it's immediate. If you're not giving them great service, they're not going to give you a great tip. If you're somebody with a rude waiter, you do have that power to not tip them well, because you are tipping for their service. If you do get great service, though, tip people well. I think that's a great idea. Totally up to you. But here's the other thing, the other angle that I wanted to add to it, because I do have a family member who is extremely rude to waiters. Luckily, I don't have to have as many meals with him. But the times that I've been with him, I'm uncomfortable. I'm uncomfortable with how rude he can be, demanding, lacking pleases and thank yous. I remember we were at one meal and I was being very sweet to the waiter, and just kind of engaging personally and laughing a little bit. And I asked if I could have a change, and they were like, yeah, no problem. And he right away jumped and said, why are you letting her make a change but not me? I took a chance at that moment, and I just said, hey, and while you're at it, spit in his food, but not mine. No, okay, not that mature, but it was a moment. I took the moment because I wanted that waiter to know this is not my viewpoint. Just because that person that I'm with is rude doesn't mean I'm going to be rude. The other part is, for that family member, he got a little embarrassed, and, it was a teachable moment for him. Sorry, but sometimes you need to learn how to be kind to people. So here's the next one that I lead into. I'm going to give one specifically because this happened to me, because people wrote in about, what do you do when you go places like CVS, or you're going to Costco, or you're going to some of these places and somebody's very rude to you and you get angry, or maybe somebody's challenging you about membership, or maybe you're at the pharmacy. So I had something happen to me, and I want to share this with you because in this case, I problem solved, and now it's a solution that I use moving forward, and I suggest it to the people I work with and to friends and family. So I'm going to tell you what happened. So I go into a pharmacy and I have to get a prescription filled. I go in and they say to me, well, we don't have enough medication to fill this prescription. And I said, oh, I had called ahead, which I had. And I said, wanted to make sure about the prescription. They said, well, we're overwhelmed. We don't have enough. And I said, Is it possible for you to call another pharmacy? The person said to me, you could call another pharmacy. And I said, do you have the numbers of the pharmacies that could have it? No, I think you just need to call. And I thought, oh my goodness, how rude. And remember, I stood there and I just looked at them and I said, you are so rude, so rude. And I walked out. I was angry. I was upset. And I thought your rude was going to somehow sink in. No, it's not going to sink in. They're just on to the next person to be rude to. I don't know. Maybe they're having a bad day. We don't know. I always try to say to myself, don't judge somebody on their worst day. Maybe that was their worst day. But anyway, I was mad and I went to my car. I got in the car, sat there, turned on the air conditioning, listened to some music, backed up out of the spot, drove down probably like a couple of stores and thought, what am I doing? I left angry and I was like, I'm mad and I hope they got it that I was mad. I didn't leave with my prescription. I didn't leave with what I needed, and I had no plan in place to get that prescription. I was doing a disservice for myself because I was mad. So I pulled over. I called the pharmacy and I asked to speak to the pharmacist. Pharmacist gets on the phone and was also rude, saying, well, we're overwhelmed here. We're trying to do our best. If you could just have patience with us, and all of that. And I said, may I say something to you? So first, I asked permission. May I say something to you? And he said, yes, of course. And I said, and I'd like you to not interrupt me. I just want to say what I have to say, and I'm going to say it very, very calmly. And he says, oh, okay. I think he was kind of shocked at that. And I said, first and foremost, I said, I am upset. I'm upset because I need my medication, and I'm upset because of how I was spoken to and how there was no solution. And your employee and you, even in your conversation with me, as briefly as it was, you're almost taking it personally. But it's not personal to you. This is your job. Your job is to come to work, fill prescriptions, educate people on the prescription you're filling, see if they have any concerns, worried about side effects, talk about all of that, and deal with human beings who are ill. They're ill, uncomfortable, depending on the prescription they're getting. Maybe they've waited to the last minute, their fault, waited to the last minute to receive a prescription. But it is personal to me. This is what I said to him. It's personal to me because I'm the one that needs the medication. I'm the one that's not receiving it. What you're doing is your job. And for some reason, you're making it personal to you. I want you to do better. Please help me. Let's problem solve this situation. I said, I'm done. And luckily, and I've got to tell you, I've used this quite a few times, and it really does stun the person because they're not expecting it. One, I say it very respectfully, very kindly, but I'm brutally honest, and I'm saying it's not personal to you. He said to me, I want you to come back. I have 12 pills, and you're supposed to be taking a series of 20 pills. I have 12. So this is what I want to do. I'm going to fill you with the 12. I'm going to fill that prescription. Then we're going to call your doctor, let them know that you only got 12. They're going to have to come in with another prescription, but we're going to handle it. And he says, please accept my apology. And he said this quote, you schooled me. And I said, well, my apologies. I hope I was not rude, but I needed to find a solution for myself rather than walk away and be mad. I'm telling you, true story. I know some of these things may sound a little bit hokey, but it's good communication. And it stuns people when people communicate well. They're not used to it. They're not used to it. So they're taken aback and they are more willing to help because I think they're just stunned and they want to figure it out. And sometimes when you're that specific with people, they see the common sense. Now, not everyone, but the majority will. Okay, here are some no-brainers. Picking your nose. Now that was on the list. That is a no-brainer. Don't pick your nose. Don't pick your nose in public. When you're driving in a car, people see you picking your nose, even if you think you're doing it on the side. Don't pick your nose. If you're a grown-up, don't pick your nose. Okay. Shaking the leg. Now here's one that I thought was really interesting, because you know what, somebody is like sitting in a chair and they're, bouncing their leg like I'm doing it right now. I'm sure you can see even my head might be moving, or my body is moving from the wiggling. So what happens is, say you're at a basketball game, football game, you're at a concert, movie theater, a play, maybe you are, I don't know, sitting to go into a restaurant and somebody is wiggling that leg. What it does is it wiggles all the chairs. Everybody is now vibrating, and it's coming off of your anxiety. So what you're actually doing is you're transferring your anxiety onto everyone else sitting there, because now they feel it. Not only do they see your leg bouncing up and down, they physically feel it. So work on it. It is a habit. It's something comes from extra energy, feeling anxious, all of those things. I remember one of my daughters, one day we were somewhere and I noticed her bouncing her leg, and I said, what are you doing? And she says, what do you mean? I said, you're bouncing your leg. And she goes, yeah, I'm just a little nervous. And I said, honey, I'm going to give you some advice right now. First of all, I love you. I adore you. I'm going to love you no matter what. This bouncing of the legs got to go. I said, we will find something else that you can work off that energy, figure out doing something else. It could be, maybe doing something like this so that it's not interfering with other people. I said, but this becomes an annoying trait. You don't want to be annoying to other people. I want people to get to know you and see what an amazing person you are, and not this irritating habit. We worked on it and it's gone. That was good. Here's another one that I thought was really interesting. Flimsy handshake. When you go to somebody, now you get a firm handshake. I always tell my daughters, and when I shake hands and I'm meeting people, I make sure I give an extra firm handshake. Not hard by any means, but a firm handshake, always with eye contact. Why? Sometimes when you shake their hand, they come at you and you go to shake their hand, they go, and you're trying to figure out what to do with the rest of the hand. It's awkward. It automatically makes people feel like, I don't know, maybe you're not strong in your thoughts, strong in, your opinions. Maybe business is not your thing. I don't know. It's no one walks away and goes, wow, what a great flimsy handshake. No one. There's not going to be, and you're going to hear me use this a lot, there's not going to be a book on that shelf that says 101 ways to give a flimsy handshake. No one's going to buy the book, and it's just never going to be there. You don't want a flimsy handshake. It was funny. With one of my daughters, they were in a ballet class when they were little. And I remember there was a dad that came in, and he was off to the side, kind of embarrassed because it was just a bunch of moms in there. And sometimes it fluctuated, like my husband took my daughter as well. But today it was just this one dad, and he was completely tattooed from head to toe. And everyone was kind of looking off to the side. I said, he's got to be in a band. He's got to be in a band. I don't know. He just had that look. Sure enough, he was in a pretty major top band. Everyone would know it if I said it. Anyway, I said, Dad, hey, come on over. We're all just kind of talking about things. And he comes over and we find out what band he's in. And we're like, oh my gosh, wow. We're asking about, the lead singer and things like that. The next week, his wife was back. And, we just started talking. We said, oh, we met your husband and so on and so forth. And we said, okay, he said, the lead singer is a nice guy, but how is it for you? And she says, I can say it in one thing. You go to shake his hand and he's like this. Like it's this weak. And I remember her doing this. And I said, are you kidding me? She goes, no, that said it all for me. I will never forget that because, you have this image of this lead singer who is like one of the most popular people around, and hearing that, you're thinking, oh God, right? Now, look, does that mean he's a horrible person? No. Does it mean he doesn't have great qualities? No. But everyone was sitting there and they were just off-put by it. So keep that in mind. Work on your handshake. These are all things that all out in your community, out in the wild, that you can do things better. Because the overall theme of these ones that we're doing here is when you know better, do better, right? Okay. Here are the last couple of ones that I want to talk about today. This one in particular, I think can be, it's a hard one, but people speaking loudly at concerts. Now, you're at a concert, there's loud music, and depending on the venue, it could be really loud. You're having side conversations, you're talking to the people that you're with. Maybe you're like, wow, look at that outfit, or oh my gosh, that's my favorite music, or wow, look at those other people over there. Okay. However, if you're sitting at a concert and you wind up speaking for, say, a half an hour or more loudly to a group of people, and you're just speaking, then the people in front of you, to the side of you, and more than likely the back of you, are hearing you louder than the concert that they've paid for. Now, do you have a right to have a conversation? Absolutely. Do you have a right to not watch it? Absolutely. You bought your ticket. You can do what you want. But the other people bought their ticket too. That's where we stop and think, how are we affecting other people around us? How can we be a better human being? And why I do these particular podcasts is because I want us to do better as a community and as a world. And a big part of that is thinking about the other person. What's going on with them? I mean, when we look at what's seriously going on in our world right now, you'd wonder if a couple of nations could really just stop and say, let me put myself in their shoes. Maybe something would change. Now, I know that's very simplistic. I don't know. Sometimes the simplest path is the way to go. I think that's Occam's razor. The simplest path is the answer. I don't know. Think about it. Okay, so the last one, I thought this was really funny. Now, people put it in as a few different things, but this one was having a sour look on your face. Like if you're walking around and you just have this really funky look on your face. Now, I have a story about this too. So this was years and years ago, and I was walking into a Nordstrom's at the mall. And there were these kids, teenagers, walking into the Nordstrom. And they were just like dropping F-bombs, loud, inappropriate, all of that. But I guess I had a look on my face. So when I got to the counter, because it was right there as I walked in, she says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I know that really disturbed you. And I said, oh, well, fleeting, but it's no big deal. And she says, oh, I saw it all over your face. And I said, oh my goodness. I said, I'm so sorry. Especially in my business, I usually tend to have, not as a lot of emotions on my face because I don't want people to feel judged or anything like that. But here's the thing. Be aware. And here's a helpful tip, a very helpful tip. When you're having an intense conversation, maybe on the schoolyard, maybe you're volunteering, you're at your place of work, maybe you're at a party and somebody comes up and is gossiping. Here's a very helpful technique and hint of what I think you should maybe try. Take it or leave it. As you're talking to the person, position them, like literally turn their body and position so the majority of the people could see your face. And smile. Smile. And tell the person, look, I'm smiling right now because I don't want people to get the impression that we're speaking about somebody or something negatively. Helpful tip. No one will come over to you and say, oh my gosh, I saw you smiling. Maybe some, but the majority will say, oh my gosh, I saw your face. It looked shocking. You looked upset or you looked whatever. Take away the attention from it. Sometimes people need to vent, but it doesn't have to be so dramatic later on where you have to include the entire community around you. Anyway, I thought these were really great. I thought these were really, really great. I really enjoyed these. Some of them very common sense. Loved those. And the other ones, I hope you take away those helpful hints. The biggest thing I want you to pull from today is that take a moment to problem solve for yourself. Going back to that pharmacy, leaving angry gets you nowhere. You feel justified because you're angry. I'll never come here again. Okay. They have thousands of other customers. Okay. You don't want to leave without getting what you need. Take time, problem solve, find a solution for yourself. And the biggest thing is just be real. Just tell them this is personal to me. It's not personal to you. So I'm going to ask you, let me be frustrated, but not at you. If my voice raises or I'm a little bit strong with my words, it's not you. It's not you at all. It really is the situation. If you could just give me that space and that we can find a solution. I'm telling you, it's going to work wonders for you. So, chat with Dr. Kat. Please go in. Keep putting these in. I'm really enjoying what you're writing. I love that there's a lot of duplicates in there because people are thinking, and these are actual things that bother people out in the wild, out in our community. Chatwithdrkat.com. Remember, 2 options. It can be anonymous, or you can put in your name and email address. Here's another option. When you see this podcast, start making comments. Make comments. I'm going to see those. I'm going to respond to you personally, and I'm going to add it to my list. Have a wonderful day. I've enjoyed our time. Bye.